And we are live. Welcome, welcome, gentlemen, and hopefully we'll get some ladies in here. Today, for our War of Ideas Monday show, we are talking about the so-called crisis on the southern border. We're going to talk about whether this crisis is in fact a crisis. We're going to talk about um, political responses. We're going to talk about what our political responses should be if we lived in a sane world, and everything in between. So hopefully it'll be a good time. I'm joined by many great minds who are fun to talk to, so it should be a good time. So everybody, anybody watching on YouTube, please hop in, and let's get started. Andy, I saw you just popped in here. You want to lead us off? Been hearing a lot of Doolittle and Lebowski for the last 5 minutes, so you know you could freshen things up. It'd be
Yeah,
great.
all I will say is that I think the northern border is the one we should be worrying about.
That them Canadians.
Yeah, I know one in particular who just really
Uh,
grinds my gears.
yeah, I mean, I tend to agree. You gotta keep those moose up where they belong. And
Yeah, there's no way I could guide this in the direction you hope for. I apologize.
all right. So anyone else, any takers? I can always throw my take out there, but I like hearing what everybody else thinks. So Doolittle, do you have 2 cents?
I don't know. Do you have a specific question?
Yeah, like
Because I've got a lot. Because I've got a lot of views about the whole border
all
thing.
right.
Having
So
lived there.
I mean, I guess my question would be: do you think the things happening at the border are good or bad, and why or why not? I guess I mean that's
Um,
pretty broad, but I feel like it prompts a pretty clear response.
yeah. So I think the 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 what's going on the border is much about the posturing of our leadership as it is, as it is about whether people feel like they need to come here to make a better life, right? So we do have a lot of people that try to cross, both legally and illegally all the time, and there've been ebbs and flows of let's just say the demand for immigration versus how much the government has been willing to supply,
Mm.
and there was about 4 years there where there was some pretty heavy posturing about, okay, if you come here, we're going to send you right back. Um, if you claim, you know, what do you call it? Claim sanctuary. What do they call it?
Sanctuary city?
Um,
Oh, asylum.
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 Yeah. So if you claim asylum, we're going to make you wait in Mexico for your trial, right? So there was a pretty hard line. We're building a wall. There was a pretty hard line on immigration, and there's sort of like an amount of pent up demand where there's a lot of people that were like, well, I really want to go to America, and things are not so great in my hometown, and there used to be, in the 8 years prior to that, there was sort of a trickle that got through, and and that went to almost nothing for a while under Trump. There was a pretty hard line.
Yeah.
The demand didn't go away, and neither was it alleviated by other forces in the home countries of these people. And Joe Biden came in, and the posture went to essentially slack. Um, and so now there's all these people that think all they got to do is walk across our border, and they're Americans now. And there's a very low barrier to entry at this point for people coming to America, and they think they're going to get away with it.
And they might not be
Or
wrong.
I'm pretty sure they're not. I'm pretty sure they're not wrong at this point. Like we had, I guess, just recently 15,000 people from Haiti. Like how did the Haiti people get to Mexico to walk across our border?
That is an
It's,
excellent
it's,
question.
so
My
these are not. I mean, these are not destitute, impoverished people. Um,
you don't think so?
these are people that have saved up money. No, the 15,000 that were under the bridge are people that have saved up money, and they have enough money for their own room and board, and they're like they're probably all in the top 10% of wealthy Haitians.
Right.
They're not the 1%, but they're the top. They're probably in the top 10 or 20% that have been able to save up the money and the resources for the journey, and they have money for room and board. They have job skills, probably most of them. So the question is, like, why do we have a situation where massive amounts of people think they can just make the decision for the United States of America who gets to be here?
Right.
And I think to me the crisis is one of freedom of association, where, like, I'm all for more people being Americans, like the more the merrier, but the freedom of association principle, I think, requires that the people who are in an association to start with have to have the final say as to whether you attach yourself to their association in any group, whether it's a church or a country or
the right to borders, basically,
or an employee at a company. Like, you can't just say, I'm working for Coca-Cola now, and just go to their factory.
Right.
Coca-Cola has to let you in to be an employee, right? They have to. There's a process. There's a due process to.
No. I snuck through security and made it into the factory. I'm automatically a Coca-Cola employee now. That's how it works.
So now you have to pay my health care and give me benefits and all that stuff, right? Like, it doesn't work that way in any aspect of your life. You can't sneak into the Catholic Church and now all of a sudden you're a Catholic. Well, I guess you can, but that's maybe not as meaningful. But even the Catholic Church has a due process you have to go through before they accept you as one of their own, right? So,
yeah, I tend to agree. I think it's also a double tragedy because of what you just mentioned. Is that most of the Haitians who can afford to get here, like, they're the wealthy ones. They're the ones with the best job skills, and instead of staying in Haiti rather, and using their skills to better their own country, like, there's just a kind of a brain drain, which kind of keeps Haiti in this perpetual state of non-development. So there's also the counterproductiveness there that's kind of unfortunate.
That happens everywhere. That's why, like, immigration needs to be
slowed down,
limited to some extent. And I don't think anyone knows what the right number is. Like, how many people should we keep bringing to our country? Like, nobody knows.
I don't know. I know.
There's some level where it's good to have more people come in, and above some level, it's not only a brain drain on the country where they're coming from, but it's also a tax on the burden on the society that they're going into in terms of assimilating them, and what kind of social services are necessary to get them to the point where they're self-sufficient in our country.
Sure.
And obviously that's easier if they already speak the language and they already have similar laws and customs and so forth. And it's harder the more dissimilar the people are.
Right.
So it's really hard to say, well, what's the right number of people? And everyone's got different opinions on that. And I think it's probably okay if we go back and forth.
I think 69 a year would be good. I think that makes sense, personally. That's my favorite number, personally.
69,420 people a year.
Yes, that sounds perfectly reasonable. I think that works.
But I think politically, I think it's kind of a tragedy. Our vice president is probably the least competent vice president that we ever had in history, and she got assigned to being the border czar, essentially, and hasn't even showed up there, which is, it's like, if you're the border czar and there's a crisis going on, you should probably at least show your face in the region.
Nope. Apparently not.
It's just a complete and utter failure of leadership in that regard.
All right, Doolittle. I could hear you rant all day, and I could love it, but unfortunately, there are other human beings who I have to care about.
Yeah, let's hear from everyone else.
So, Bojangles, I haven't heard from you in a while. What do you think about this whole all the ruckus on our southern border? The American southern border, maybe not everybody's, but. Excuse me?
Yeah. Well, what was the topic? I missed what you
The
were saying.
ruckus on the southern border. Lots of
Oh,
immigrants coming in, very little control. Texas is
yeah.
actually kind of taking matters into its own hands now. Uh, I don't know. The number was like 14,000 over the last few days. Got like brought into the interior or something.
Yeah, I
So
don't see it being, as it stands, I don't see it being a tenable way to run the border. I mean, a country ceases to be a country if it doesn't have a way to vet who it's letting into its borders. I'm not against immigration, but having its unfettered, unrestricted immigration, I think that's a path to disaster, and I think it's showing itself to be a path to disaster.
yeah,
Regardless of
I agree that
regardless of what the solution would be, considering how large the border with Texas and Mexico is. I don't know if a wall would
I don't
certainly
know.
stem the tide. I'm not sure how meaningful of a stop it would put on illegal immigration. I don't know.
I don't know. This type of situation makes me a lot more warm to the build the wall idea at least. I'm not sure I fully buy into it, but when this is the alternative, it makes me a little bit more warm towards it. A sensor. I
Yeah,
don't know if I've seen you in here before. I would love to get your take on this the ruckus down on the southern or not, or he doesn't want to talk to me. That's okay. I don't. Oh, he's back. Censor, what's your take on the southern border? There's a lot of ruckus going on. What do you think? Censor going once.
Hey, hey, sorry, just having a little trouble connecting.
No sweat, mate. What do you think? Lay it on us. Hot takes.
Southern border. So, well, with what's been going on with the Haitians, the mass migration, they were just being fed political media from down in South America, which led them up to the border. But at the end of the day, there's really no choice there, especially during a pandemic. If it wasn't a pandemic and there were more options available to maybe set up housing or what have you until we could sort something out, it'd be a different story. But we got a pandemic going on, so really the only option they were left with was to get shipped back to Haiti, at least in this scenario.
It wasn't even all of them though. A lot just got released. But we're shipping some back, but there's like a lot who did not get sent back to where they came from. What do you
Where,
think?
right?
Yeah.
Where'd they go?
Um, um, Theoretically, were released into the interior. They're essentially unaccounted for in terms of public knowledge, as far as I'm aware, which is kind of an issue. Either that, or they're just stuffing up those quote unquote concentration camps, just making them
Yeah,
even more full.
that would seem. Where did we? I didn't keep up with it much during at least over the weekend. But where did we hear that they're being released to the interior? I
Well, we
haven't read.
haven't. I mean, that's why I said presumably because we don't know what's happening to them, and we already know that our facilities are like at capacity or already overflowing. So I said presumably they were released, but I want to be very clear. I don't know that for sure. We don't actually know what's happening to most of them. It's not in the public eye at this point.
Yeah, it seems like media attention diverted pretty quickly off of that once there was some
Yeah.
sort of resolution headed that direction, whether it be military flights back to Haiti or Coast Guard ships taking them back or even releasing them into the interior of Mexico. Seems more probable to me than them just saying, all right, you're good to go. Have a have a good run, and then just let them take off into the states. Save,
Off
save
into the
them.
sunset. Yeah. Uh, yeah, it's kind of a mess. Dao I want to see what you think. What's the deal?
Uh, what's the topic exactly?
Oh, I'm sorry. The ruckus on the southern border. There's a lot of people. Allegedly, there's people with whips on horseback as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot of noise. I'm curious what you think about it.
So far, all I've heard is rumors, so I haven't really come to a strong decision. But assuming, because I've heard things, I heard about the horse whipping or the whipping people thing, and I also heard that they were like, if someone was near death's door, they might just evict them out of the facility so they don't have a death in their facility. I was hearing stuff like that too.
Yikes.
But
since most people haven't heard of this, just to be clear, the horse whipping and running people down with horses that the president of the United States was so quick to get on the TV and denounce has already been confirmed to be a fake news story that somebody there was an editorial writer from the New York Times that took a video and turned it into a still where there was a guy swinging his reins around and he was, you slap your horse a little bit to get it to go one way or the other, and he was doing that to control his horse. And they took a still of it right when it looked like he was like really, like if you look at the still, it looks like he's really going to. And they wrote a whole editorial about how these guys are whipping here's another white man whipping a black man.
Right.
Just to remind you of slavery. And the whole thing is a fake news story. The guy that took the video went out publicly and said, no, there was nobody whipping anybody. This is all bullshit made up. And if you watch the video, it's obvious what's going on, and it's really sad to me that people keep making up these fake stories and take some.
Did you cut out, or are we still good? Hello? Having connection trouble, folks. Sorry to hear that. We're missing some, I'm sure we're missing some good content right now. Hello? I had some connection trouble. Everybody hear me?
Yeah, I think everybody dropped off.
Okay, so that was everybody. Okay. Well, I'm glad I didn't
as soon
miss.
as you, all of our audio.
Yeah, my audio completely went out.
Oh man.
It was right as I was making a joke to what Doolittle was saying. I said, "Oh, so Project Veritas was down there?"
Oh, dude, Scott, no way. It happened right when I made a joke too, and that gave me such anxiety. I thought like it was just so
Just
not
nobody
funny
laughed.
that it stopped talking.
Oh yeah, we definitely had an audio cut off. That's definitely why nobody laughed, Andy. You don't need to feel worried about that.
That's great.
Why is it?
Joke in the world.
Hmm?
Hey,
How you doing?
yeah, I made a joke too during that. It was the greatest joke ever of all time.
Oh really? Was it ever? That's impressive.
I can't remember.
It's lost to history, the tragedy.
Well, the only thing you can do now is give a tribute to the greatest.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Scott.
And there was like two shiny demons somewhere along the path, when I was making this joke. But
Yeah, I see.
I just said, could you imagine if Nivek heard about this story?
Oh God.
Oh god.
Well,
Nivek. Hopefully he pops in, spice things up a little.
Assuming it's.
So what is it? Immigrant horse.
Yeah, you can put the image in the live text. I can't pop off.
Yeah, apparently they're like whipping immigrants or something down at the border.
No. That's not
doesn't seem
right. That's not right. He did look pretty mad though.
I do see there are a couple pictures of when there's a dude on horseback like grabbing a dude by his shirt.
Yeah.
And then stuff going on, but at the same time, then you look at the background of the picture, and there's like people just sort of standing there. So yeah, I mean it's.
Yeah, and in the video, in the actual video, the exaggeration of the movements is just not there to imply that there's any kind of force taking place.
Yeah, I mean it looks like, because I only see the one picture of the dude grabbing the guy by his shirt, but like I said, in that same picture, there's like people just sort of standing there, and like it doesn't seem. they're not whipping people, and the dude has his his ride whip, but he's not whipping people with it. If you don't know,
No, of
you
course,
know,
of course
It's
he's
just
not.
it's just reins.
Yeah,
It's just
right,
reins.
right.
Yeah, it's just reins. He doesn't even have a crop. Yeah.
It's like, of
Yeah,
course they're
exactly.
not whipping people. Like, that's an absurd on its face. Like, there's no way. But people want to believe it because it's
Of
convenient
course,
for the
it's
political
ridiculous. And,
narrative.
even if they were, is that even that big of a deal? I mean, honestly.
Who said
Yeah,
that?
no,
I mean, that's actually a decent point, actually.
I think it would be kind of a big deal.
I wouldn't put it out of the there might be some cops who are gonna hit people with a whip. I mean, come on, that's not that crazy, but yeah, these pictures are not showing that for sure.
So we've had I don't know how to pronounce this man's name because it has a strange symbol, but it looks like LL. He's been in for a while. I want to get his take, and then we'll go over to Hanging Chad, who I'm glad to see is popped in.
That's Bruno.
Bruno?
Yeah, this guy is brilliant. The best.
You should
detective
just
in the
call
world.
him L, yes.
L.
Yeah, ask him what his pronouns are.
L, what are your pronouns? And also, what do you think about the southern border crisis?
My pronouns are he/haw.
I love it.
Well done. Well done. Okay.
What do I think about it?
There's some ruckus on the southern border. You may have heard. What do you think?
As an outsider, just observing, it's crazy for you guys. It's just, it's not good for the immigrants nor for the state. Because, the state would have to expend resources to, house the immigrants and so on and so forth. And the immigrants would have to, some of them are in debt to the cartels that bring them in there, I think. Some of them get raped, some of them die, so all in all, I don't think it's a good thing.
Yeah. That's actually an awesome point in that we kind of reject this kind of mass migration on its face, especially during pandemic. They could be bringing in all kinds of disease, but by turning them away and without forging them a path to citizenship or some other alternative, their alternative going back through Mexico or back down to South America, their likelihood of going to Haiti is nil, but the likelihood that they are going to be human trafficked, encounter drug gangs, or have to give up a family member to who knows what for
slavery
by some is a horrendous alternative. And I wish we had another path for them so that we could incorporate them in to the point where they could be, productive citizens. Seems like a better alternative.
Well, here's an interesting point too, though. How many of us have ever broken a law in our lives?
Are we talking county or above?
Exactly. So
I never did.
So people will break laws. So how far would you go for a better life, right? I mean,
yeah.
How far, what's the level that you would go to have the opportunity for a better life? I mean, to me, I'd go
to every fucking extent. Every fucking extent.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the way I see it.
I wouldn't do anything that required an amount of effort, but that says more about me than.
I wouldn't want someone here, and this is half of my immigration stance, is I wouldn't want someone here that wouldn't go to the farthest extent to make a better life for their family.
Yeah.
And if these people are willing to brave whatever severe conditions it might take to get here, those are the kind of people that we want in the long run to some extent. And the question is just how do we do it efficiently and with the least human damage?
Exactly.
Yeah, despite the human obstacles, just think of
and filter out the few criminals that are amongst them instead of just letting everyone across.
But here's something we could do. We can go back the way that immigration used to work. So to become a United States citizen, the way it used to work is you had to come here and you had to be a resident for 5 years, and you had to live in the country for 5 years without ever getting in trouble and all that kind of stuff, and then you could like petition to become a resident. We could do the same thing, but like when people come here, they get some sort of like a resident like ID card, and at that point they have to pay into Social Security. All these systems, knowing the fact that like so say it takes you 10 years to become a citizen, that 10 years that you paid into Social Security, you don't get that back. That's part of the deal, right? You're paying that money into Social Security and into taxes and stuff, and you don't get that back, right? Because I think, I mean, that could shore up problems with our Social Security system going forward, and I mean, I think there are rational ways about this that we could make it work.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think there's a lot of ways that we can do it better than what we're doing now, mostly because the bar is just so astronomically low, given how bad we're doing it right now. I mean, like, in historical context, it's actually incredible. Like, when we had people coming across the Atlantic, like, all the time, we had, like, Ellis Island, and, like, that worked. And that was, like, what, 100 years ago, 150 years ago? And now, like, we can't even, like, 100 years later, we can't keep our shit together. Unfortunately, it's really incredible.
I've heard that Ellis Island thing that got brought up even when Trump was president, and we had that whole issue down at the border. People were like, "Oh, remember Ellis Island?" The problem with contrasting current days and Ellis Island days, I would say, almost all of those people that came across with Ellis Island at that time frame had their birth certificates, marriage certificates. They brought documentation from their country. No.
Do you know what WAP means?
Yeah.
So do you know what the racial slur WAP means?
Word.
Means without papers.
Without papers.
Wet blank.
No.
So, I mean, that's the thing. Like, I mean, like so many people came over without papers. Like, I mean, I don't know how accurate that information actually is, that people had all their paperwork when they were coming across the Atlantic. I mean,
you're right. I shouldn't say all. A lot did. Those that were coming from a lot of the European countries had papers.
I mean, it's also that
they asked you to get on the boat.
Yeah, exactly. There's also like the issue of it's not easy to walk like through the desert, but it's a much more surmountable obstacle than like getting across the Atlantic 100 years ago. So there's also that. Like a lot of the natural borders America had have kind of broken down with the advent of tech. And it's not like we have a lot of illegal immigration from across the sea, but like you kind of see the point. It's harder to control space because we've just gotten so much better at traversing it. Chad, you've been in here for a while. Want to get your take, and then we'll move over to Giovanota, who has a dope tiger profile picture. But for now, Chad, what do you think about the ruckus down on the southern border? And is it Trump's fault?
I actually haven't followed this nearly at all. It's never been on my political radar. It seems to be just a political football that gets passed back and forth all the time. I haven't necessarily seen any, I guess you could say, evidence that it would be considered a crisis other than like a humanitarian crisis. But I mean, it's the same rhetoric I've been hearing for the past 15 years.
Yeah, fair. This seems to have been a problem that we've had for a long time, and like it ebbs and flows in terms of severity, but the issue of the southern border has existed for a long, long time, and we haven't had a solution.
Since we occupied it. Makes sense.
Yeah, right. And it just seems like one of those things that's going to be around forever. Giovanna. I'm not even going to try.
Giovanna Nota.
Giovanna Nota?
Giovanna Nota.
All right. That's pretty awesome.
Actually, it's Sharon, but anyway.
All right. Well, what do you prefer?
Whatever.
All right. Well, give us your thoughts.
I don't have any easy answers for the. My last name is Notar Giovanni, so I just use like Giovanna as my like online name. I don't have any easy answers for the border. That's a tough one. I think that even though I lean left, I think a lot of our policies are not working in that regard. But we're all humans, and it would be nice if we could be without borders.
It would be nice, but it seems like that'd be difficult to pull off. What do you think we should do?
Mm-hmm.
Like practically speaking.
I definitely think there needs to be a differentiation between people who are here legally and not legally. I do feel bad for the people who've gone through the process and could be getting more.
So true.
If it weren't for the people who are here illegally and getting as much as they do.
Yeah, I mean, I agree.
The majority of illegal immigrants come from overstayed visas and student visas and work visas and all these other like actual, bureaucratic processes, right?
That just suck.
Right.
Bad. Wise, you've been in here for a while. I don't think we've actually gotten like your full thoughts yet. I'm sorry. What are you thinking? Are you more? Do you want to build the wall? Like, what do you think? Bring a hot take.
Well, I'll just speak for what I know others are thinking. We'd like to see them arrive safely to get a better life,
Sure.
But as long as they've accepted Jesus, it doesn't matter if they've lied. That they will have a better life. They can drown at sea or starve in the desert. It's let's just make sure they're saved.
Dude,
that's the view of most of the people in my area, speaking from Missouri.
Well, the upside is that Haiti's one of the most religious countries in the world.
I know, right? They're easy converts.
Well, it's also probably why it's one of the poorest, right?
Right.
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a very important question. Have you ever told a lie?
Yeah, and I eat lots of bananas.
Excuse me, I need to cut out. I just wanted to say hello.
Hello.
Hello. No worries.
You guys
We'd love to have you.
Discussion.
Yeah,
Good one.
I really hope you come back for another one of these shows. It was great having you. Love to get more of your thoughts. Yeah, have a good one.
Take care.
Yeah, peace. I mean, we were talking about the Heidi thing, and I don't think everybody was in the room. It was kind of early on, but again, like, a big problem with this immigration is that everybody who has the resources to leave, who has, like, just slightly more, is, like, leaving and taking all that extra capital, essentially, and, like, taking it out of their country, which kind of defeats any possibility of development long term. So it's kind of, it kind of perpetuates non-development in those countries like in Haiti, like you were talking about. So
they call that a brain drain.
Yeah, exactly, a brain drain. I mean,
it's a geopolitical phenomenon, I'd say.
Yeah, and so not only is allowing illegal immigrants into the country like a perpetuation of the problem.
I don't think that would happen though.
We'll get to you in 1 second, Nivik, I promise, because I very much want to hear what you have to say. But not only does permissive illegal immigration laws incentivize illegal immigration, they also keep the places that people are immigrating from in such a state that it motivates immigration as a push, as well a push from their country as much as it is a pull into America. So I just wanted to throw that out there. What do you think, Chad? And then we'll go to Nivik. Chad? Thought I heard you say something.
Oh, I was cutting out a little bit. Yeah, I don't know. Do we have any statistical evidence to say that is becoming a main driver for immigration?
Yeah, I have a source. Do you know what my source is? It's Trust Me, Bro.
Oh, that'd be sweet. Yeah, if you
Trust
post
me,
it,
bro.
like I said, I am not particularly well versed in the immigration debate,
Chat.
especially coming from a family that is, obviously mixed. I don't particularly, have a strong feeling either way.
My source is Trust Me, Bro. That's my source. That's all you need.
I
don't. I just theorize that countries being more poor and desperate. Andy, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was saying that's better than CNN's anonymous sources.
Yeah, at least I'm honest about it, right? Yeah. I mean, the dots I'm essentially connecting is if brain drains keep countries from developing and people don't want to live in undeveloped countries, then, I would drive more immigration. I mean, I'm just trying to
I've got a hot
connect some
take
dots.
for you.
Huh?
I've got a hot take for you on that one.
Please, I love it. I love it. And then we'll go to Nivek.
So, it seems like kind of this American exceptionalism cop-out or scapegoat for whatever policies we would eventually, I guess, whatever more authoritarian and draconian policies we would implement at the border, to use that as like a post hoc rationalization for whatever we decide to implement. Like, oh, well, it's actually going to benefit the countries that we're getting mass immigration from if we start to really crack down on that. It seems like a post hoc, but
yeah, I mean, it's possible, and that's not the primary reason. The primary reason is because I believe personally that the government's first duty is to its own citizens. So obviously that's first and foremost, but it's just kind of interesting to think about the effect it has on other countries. But,
yeah, I feel that. All right, makes sense.
I mean, if other politicians all of a sudden change their tune to make themselves look more empathetic, then I'd agree. That's post hoc. That's just political stuff. But we'll see. Nivek, there's been a ruckus on the southern border, and only you can tell us what should be done. Please give us your hot takes and your thoughts. We are waiting with bated breath.
Well, the U.S. has to intervene in Haiti because it's their hemisphere, and they've always been doing that since forever.
Since forever.
History.
How do you think Haitian immigrants got to the southern Mexico border?
That Haiti do, it's not Haiti policies. It's what U.S. tells them to do.
What do you mean?
Is that the Truman Doctrine? Is that what the?
No, I mean like it's a small island. It needs to trade and stuff, and a lot of the help that it gets is from the U.S. based on the condition that it's in trying to get on its feet. And those conditions, I mean that help would be based on certain conditions that they'd have to go by. So I'm just saying, like, in a way, it's not like Haiti's a communist country. You know what I'm saying? There'd be problems if it was, right?
Mm-hmm.
There'd be Cuba. The U.S. be choking the shit out of it right now. For even doing something like that, and especially if they brought like some Russia or like a China over there, that's a missile crisis all over again. That's serious. That's like that's.
So what was Haiti's governmental structure in the 1980s?
I have no idea.
Haiti was always a mess.
Right, so they went through a revolution a lot like Cuba did, right?
Haiti was always a republic. Haiti is actually the first republic in the Western Hemisphere, to be honest. It beat the U.S. in its independence.
I'm going to look it up for you.
Some Haitians even came to the U.S. to help fight in the Revolutionary War.
That's right. I remember that. Yeah. I mean, yes, I remember. I was there. I remember one of the Haitian soldiers.
And after the Civil War, a Southern influence pretty much said "fuck you, Haiti," and it isolated it.
So 1957 to 1986, the Duvalier dynasty, Papa Doc Duvalier. Have you heard of this guy?
I was going to say he was overthrown in what, 91?
In 1957, he was elected, and in 1986 was the end of his reign.
Yeah, he's a dictator.
He was they said he terrorized the populace. I don't know, whatever that is.
That's dictator.
Post Duvalier, it was led by army leaders.
Yeah, some military oligarchy.
So
all I know is in somewhere around the early 90s there was a military coup. And then the U.S. eventually intervened.
20,000 U.S. troops in Operation Uphold Democracy.
There it is. That one.
And
I love the naming conventions.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
That sounds very innocuous.
And so a puppet. I guess it was a puppet. Jean Bertrand Aristide. I can't speak French.
Yes.
I'm
Nobody can.
sure I butchered that. Jean Bertrand Aristide, who returned to Haiti in October of 1994.
Yeah, and the U.S. told him to get out of power, right?
So essentially, they haven't really been self-governing democratically since for a while, right?
Well, so a lot of countries say that they're supposed democracy, but they're not. They're really not. Some people even say that about the United States.
Yeah, and then in 2004 there was another coup d'état.
I was gonna say I couldn't tell you, my guy.
And supposedly U.S. Special Forces uniforms were being worn by the people who kidnapped the previous leader's wife. There's a lot of stuff going on there, but it's not exactly stable politically.
Yeah, didn't their leader get assassinated?
And weather and
natural
volcanoes
disasters.
not exactly good. That's not exactly good for them either. Right?
Yeah, they're
What are you looking at right now?
They're just consistently getting smacked
just the
around.
Wikipedia entries. I give it 90%. On history, I give Wikipedia like 90% accuracy.
So
It's
what's
probably-
the wiki?
Well, damn it, that's
Is it the history of Haiti? What did you wiki? Is it the history of Haiti? Is it governing? What did you Google?
Just the Wikipedia entry on Haiti in general, and the first 10 pages of that is about the history of the government. So I don't know, when they're just saying, so and so was the president until whatever. I believe that. But if they start making commentary about the president of Haiti was white supremacist or something like that, then I'm not going to believe that kind of stuff.
Right.
All right.
Well, okay. Well, that's an opinion. So the things that aren't an opinion, like, okay, the president of Haiti from 1984 to 1994 was this guy, like, and here's what his political ideology was. I kind of believe that.
I get the gist.
Yeah, 90%. So it seems like Haiti's been not exactly politically stable, at least for the last half a century. And
oh yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, didn't their leader get assassinated pretty recently? Yeah, it's not great.
Yeah.
Neurotic Shrimp, you got in here. What are your thoughts? We're talking about Haiti right now, but the topic of today's show is the ruckus on the southern border. What do you think about all that? What do you think you would do about it? Give us your thoughts, hot takes. We want to hear them.
That me?
Yeah, you, Neurotic Shrimp.
I mean, no hot takes. I'm Canadian. I mean, I know there's a border crisis. I know it's
He's like,
probably
I don't
tested. But
Opinion.
I vaguely know of Haiti. I haven't thought about Haiti for like 3 years, truthfully told. So I'm just listening.
I believe that they should be open.
U.S. Imperialism's got you covered.
I think they should be open for them to come in.
I'm calling fake news here because I don't know a lot about geography, but I'm pretty sure Haiti isn't near our southern border. So
It is
what's going on?
I'm pretty sure
It is.
there isn't
It
a
is.
good
It's
screening
pretty-
process. Like I'm pretty sure. Sorry, I'm completely squaring Haiti. So with Mexico, I'm pretty sure like an illegal immigrant can get in like 100% of the time if they just know like the right answers, and then like the legal system will put them through, and you will come in. Like it's like when you first meet the officer, you're like you don't say anything, and then when they interview you, you say like the right words. Like I'm claiming like safety, and then you're in like 100% of the time, and then like gang members will get in, like people smuggle like kids like that, and then like there's a way to get in.
To get into Mexico?
To get into the States from Mexico. I mean, I suppose any from
They
anywhere.
claim asylum. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah,
I mean, it
I
doesn't
saw a
get
video
you
on the
magically
specifics
in
of
the
it,
door.
but they can get in
That
100% of
sounds a
the
lot
time.
like I'm
you're
sorry,
trained.
officer, I'm a sovereign citizen. You can't arrest me for traveling.
Like you say the right things, you're guaranteed in.
That's interesting. Where'd you hear that, Shrimp?
I think it was a Veritas video.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense. Never mind. All right.
They totally.
There is there is a bunch of propaganda put out by the Mexican government on how to deal with the border patrol if you encounter them, and how to get into the United States.
It was like a border control dude that came to like Veritas, and he was like, "This is like the process. This is how they're doing it."
No, I mean,
There's
there's
nothing I can do.
literally flyers that they hand out in Mexico.
Oh, okay.
With instructions, but the purpose of that is not necessarily to coach people how to break the law.
It's really illegal the way they do it.
But the point is, it's kind of hard to like acknowledge that such a document exists, but not so the Mexican government is complicit in trying to help people get to the U.S. But it's more like, well, we know that you're going to go to the U.S. and you really have two choices. You can either sneak in through the desert and risk your life, or you can do it this way, right? So it's kind of like one of those
the lesser of two evils.
Yeah, it's one of those pamphlets that they hand out. They're like, yeah, people came from Guatemala, and they were handing these out to people that are like, okay, well, if you came here, and you're trying to go this way, you can either submit yourself to the cartel and coyotes and sex trafficking to get in, or you can do this process, which will get you at least like across the border, like semi-safely, right? So it's like, I don't know. Do you judge them for that? I don't know. I'm not sure that I do. I'm not sure that I do. Even though I'm anti uncontrolled immigration, I would rather have people not like perish or become subject to sex trafficking to get to our country.
Yeah, the sex trafficking is kind of a big deal. Like MS-13's tactics are pretty fucked up.
Yeah, there's some garbage stuff on that front. For sure, the way that people get smuggled. It's like a lot of horrific stuff. People go to very extreme lengths to try to get across the border.
I think the MS-13's motto is like rape, kill, control. So like
that's that's their actual motto?
Yeah, so like what they do is like they traffic you in, right? And then like if you step out of line, they'll like rape someone, and then you step out of line, they'll like kill someone that you know for like family. And like that's how they scare you into it,
All right, so I'm no expert in Mexican drug cartel hierarchy, but I'm pretty sure MS-13 hasn't been a major player for a while. The Sinaloa cartel are the ones that are primarily, dealing in this human trafficking.
MS-13's not Mexican.
They're not Mexican.
Oh, are they not? Then yeah.
No, they're like Guatemalan or something like that.
I was going to say, because as far as I know, in Mexico, the Sinaloa are the ones that are the most dangerous because they have so many tentacles within the Mexican government. I only know this because
they have an army.
A little research into actually a significant amount of technical firearms were supposed to be delivered to the Mexican government in a couple specific regions, but basically were immediately co-opted by the cartels and of course all their contacts, which is interesting because then H&K actually had to answer to that, and then a couple European courts and the German high courts. So it was kind of an interesting little thing. That's like side note, anecdotal.
Like I'm pretty sure the cartel literally they wanted to break out one of their leaders from a jail. They literally just got an army. They had like tanks and everything, and they just broke him out.
Yeah,
I don't know, dude. Let's just go watch Sicario. That's about as well versed in America and Mexican politics.
Rambo 6. Rambo 6 is what's the?
Oh shit. There you go.
Bruce, you've been in here a while. I want to get. What do you think? Do you want to build the wall? Have you been reduced? Have you been driven to the extremes, or what do you think we should do?
Oh, you asked me about like the wall in Mexico.
Yeah. I'm saying there's a ruckus on the southern border, and it's pretty bad, by most accounts. So, what do you think we should do about it?
I don't see it as a useful allocation of tax dollars necessarily.
To what?
So
to what? To build the wall or not build the wall?
To the wall.
Oh, sorry. To build it. Sorry.
Because it costs more to not build the wall because the contracts were given out, and now the people that got the contracts are suing because they didn't get substantially not build it.
Yo, wait, really?
So like there's policing.
We're talking about immigration. We're not talking about the wall.
Yes, the wall.
Those are kind of. I mean, they're kind of similar.
What is the question?
I mean, the
wall
topic is the
We're
Bruce.
talking about people coming in.
No way. They are no way related.
Yeah, Bruce. We're talking mostly just
It's
about.
just more specific.
Hold on, everybody. I'm sorry. I'll be more clear. Bruce, we were talking about the crisis, or the so-called crisis on the southern border, and I led with a joke about the wall. But the general
I
crisis
think
on
no
the
matter
border
what
is what we're
viewpoint you
talking
take,
about.
it's a crisis.
Huh?
I think no matter what viewpoint you take, it's a crisis.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but I try to be unbiased.
Well, the one thing that I would say is like, at what point do people entering the country, at what level does it become invasion? Does it have to be weapons? Does it have to be declared? Like, at what point is there an invasion occurring? Like, what is the point?
I mean,
And so-
saying they're American, or are they
question, isn't
saying
it?
that they're not American?
I'm saying, like, where is the distinction between folks crossing the border illegally or an invasion of the country?
When's it
It's a
not?
question of intent.
When's it not?
Hold on. The definition of an invasion: instance of an invading, an instance of invading a country or region with an armed force. So invasion specifically refers to as people coming there with arms. Like,
Even without arms, if they were coming onto your land, what would you call the police or not?
That's a completely different
No,
scenario. I think
it's
we're
not.
talking
Because hang on a second.
well, that's just that'd just be trespassing.
Wait a second.
You'd call
Yeah, that's
trespassing.
okay. Yeah, that is trespassing. So if you own property or the state owned property at the border and it was being encroached upon by thousands of people, what would occur?
mass trespassing. That actually is a good.
And then
term.
I like to think of an invader as somebody
what?
telling you what to do, somebody occupying you and imposing themselves on you. I don't think it's quite the same.
No, if
I don't think
if
it's
somebody
quite
comes
the
in illegally,
It's an imposition by default. Like,
Yeah, so, yeah.
so.
if somebody comes in illegally,
Hold on, one at a time. One at a time.
What kind of invasion?
You're right. You're free. If somebody comes in illegally and violates your freedom of association, that's an act of violence.
Yeah. I
So,
mean, there are
whether
levels. But
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, coming into our country, if you don't follow the process that we
It's the same
outlined
as a
for,
military rolling in and
It's not
taking
the
over your
same.
country.
It's not
It's
the
much
exact
different.
same, but they're both
they
violations of
come
sovereignty.
They come here and their children, have the right to vote.
No, you have to give a definition between the two types of invasion. You can't say they're both the same.
Yeah, so
regardless,
it's not an armed invasion.
Okay,
but
so
it's
it's not the
still
same.
coercively, it's still they have so many people that we can't deal with it with the normal process.
So it's not the same. When's it not an invasion? When people are
There
coming
has
in?
to be geopolitical intent to classify it as invasion. Otherwise, you're using it as semantic.
Regardless of
Which I thought we weren't a part of.
One of
regardless
those
of
people, each one of those people is a sovereign individual.
Yeah, regardless of intention, the
It
act
has
still
to
occurs.
have the intention.
No,
that is
no,
specifically the point between
Wait a
an invasion versus just
No,
trespassing.
I'm not
which are
making
completely
a
different.
semantic
Well,
argument.
he's
I'm making-
defining. Some people define
I
it.
understand.
You have different interpretations. You get what I'm saying?
I understand. I'm not making a semantics argument. I'm just stating the fact that there are individuals or groups of individuals going onto a place that was not necessarily allowing them to do that.
It's still a violation of sovereignty.
So
Yes.
there was some violation.
So what should we change? Should we change the law for them to come in and have it not be an invasion? Then
One at a time.
The law?
It's not a willful exchange between both parties, right? So one of the parties wants to come here, and the other party wants him not to come here.
Okay, so if we change the law, it's okay.
Hold on, one at a time. One at a time.
Okay.
Just real quick.
Wait a second.
I want to make a point to that end. So would you guys think that what the like Amon Bundy and like his group when they took over that wildlife refuge, would you say that's an invasion?
I never said this was an invasion. I was only looking for a distinction. But regardless, there's still individuals encroaching upon private and/or public land that they are not necessarily given access to. So they're having to forcefully place themselves in a place that they normally wouldn't be allowed.
Right.
Yes.
It's
Yeah,
still a
no,
problem.
But the Amon Bundy is not a really good example because Amon Bundy was feeding his cattle on that public land for generations, and the government came in ex post facto and declared
I'm not talking about specifically the grazing lands. I'm talking about that wildlife, the Mar wildlife rescue, where they all they all went there, and like there was a whole group of them, like a couple people got killed and that kind of shit.
Slightly different because you have the ability as a U.S. citizen to go to these places. You pay for them indirectly with tax dollars. So like it's a little different. I mean, I can understand the point being made is like you're not allowed there, but they're allowed there, depending on the circumstances. But I mean, they're still allowed there. It's not illegal necessarily until they decide to arm up, I suppose. But even then, like it wasn't necessarily the same level of trespassing occurring.
So Bruce, if somebody says political asylum and they say, okay, you're cool, is that okay then?
No, because
if it's within the if it's within the law, then I would say okay.
If it's legitimate political asylum, as opposed to just calling it to game the system.
Where's the line drawn?
That's the thing. That's the thing. Somebody has to come across the border and claim asylum before, like, they can look at that specific instance.
And then a lot of people just never show up.
Do that, right? I mean, there's a way in which you would have to do that sort of thing, right? There's a process you would have to take. You wouldn't necessarily. I mean,
there's a treaty, and there's a UN treaty, and now we also have a treaty with Mexico that says that they claim you claim asylum in the first country you come to. You don't get let's just say some guy from Haiti wants to be a German. He doesn't get to go to Mexico and then the U.S. and then take a plane to Germany and claim asylum in Germany.
Right,
I think asylum in the first safe place that you get to.
Yeah, I think
is the argument around whether or not people should be allowed to claim asylum, or is the argument around this specific instance?
Well, he said that technically that's not an invasion. They have to come in and claim asylum.
Yeah, so it's complicated because this instance is an extension of the perpetuated abuse of the asylum policies over decades.
Yeah.
And there might be a need for revision if you were to see this becoming an issue. I mean, I could understand that.
Are Haitians coming here specifically because, like, of all the political shit that's been going on? Like, they arrest Americans for, like, assassinating the president there, and like all sorts of crazy sort of like political.
All sorts of crazy stuff going on in Haiti with like hurricanes and like
assassinations. That president.
Navy SEALs kidnapped the president's wife. All kinds of shit like that.
Yeah, it's.
We put that president. That president's the American president that's in power now. Well, he was. I mean, that got assassinated, not in power now. Sorry about that.
They've been a puppet state for a while.
I have a question for.
Haiti's always a puppet.
Hold on. Trav hasn't gotten to talk yet, so he gets first priority.
Yeah, I have a question for Scott and some people about these people who technically aren't seeking asylum. They might lie about it, or the ones who actually just break immigration law. They jump the line against people who are patiently waiting for their turn. What should be the penalty for them?
I mean, like, if you're lying
it's
or
complicated.
Obviously, you're gonna have issues. Typically, the way it works in the United States, if that gets found out, you all rights of being able to actually apply for citizenship, right? So
you deport them.
Yep. That's what happens. If you get caught lying in these situations, you're like, yep.
And Nivik,
it's not always clear cut.
Nivik, do you agree that these people who break the rules, jump in front of the other people who are patiently waiting and following the rules, do you think they should be punished? Should they be deported? What should happen to them?
Well, it depends what's the rules, because sometimes.
No, don't dodge. I'm saying if they break the law, not the ones who have a legitimate, argument for asylum. I'm just talking about the ones who they see the lineup, they see the rules, and they say, you know what, those rules don't apply to me. I'm gonna skip ahead and just break those rules, break those laws, and take someone else's place, because it's my turn. I decided that. What should happen to those people?
Someone's server muted Nivek. I'll unserver mute him.
There are many. What's going on? There are many laws and where there's consideration depending on the situation of people.
Nivek.
Laws change.
No, Nivek, we understand.
That's not what Travis asked, though.
I understand what he's saying. I understand what he's saying, but what he's talking about, some things apply to some countries and some things don't apply to other countries.
That's the biggest dodge I've ever heard, man.
Just
check it out. Haitians can the immigration of Haitians coming into the United States because of a lot of shit what they gone through was lax. Biden extended their stay in the U.S. because of them leaving from Haiti from all the turmoil that they were going through.
I'm not talking about Haiti.
Yeah.
That's my point. My point is it's different.
Nivek, I want to hear what your penalty is if you're sitting on the judgment seat to someone who you have.
I said yes, you break the law, but I'm saying the laws are different. Check out Cuba. Cuba has a wet foot, dry foot policy. Cubans can come into the U.S. as soon as they put their foot on the soil. They can stay on the soil.
Nivek, do you agree with the current penalties on the book right now? Or do you think they're too harsh for people who get caught breaking the rules?
I agree with Travis, you're not understanding. Things change often. People an executive order could be written. There's what's going on with countries within the hemisphere of United States would be different than
Jesus Christ, man! I'm asking you a simple question.
There's tons of complications to this.
No,
I'm
Nivek.
pointing them out to you.
All right, Nivek. No, you're right. There are complications. No, you're right. There are complications.
You're talking about people coming into the border, and I'm pointing out different.
No, he's not. No, that's not true. That's not what he said. That's not what he said. He didn't say people crossing the border because you're right. Depending on the country.
I said yes. I answered the question. I said yes.
Okay, great.
And I'm pointing out there are different instances in different nations. I can go across different nations.
Yeah,
and I can show you how they're different.
Sure, there's different laws depending on
Cuba. There's wet foot, dry foot policy. If some people don't like that, they say Hawaii. Why can't a person just leave from Cuba as soon as if they get caught in the ocean? That means they get sent back. But as soon as they put their foot on the soil, that means they get to stay in the United States.
Sure, no,
it's called the wet foot, dry foot policy. I'm just going over that.
No, I get it.
People are trying to broad brush everything.
No, Nivek, no one's trying to broad brush everything. I appreciate you bringing in some detail. You're right. The laws are different depending on what country you come from. That's true.
Okay, so I'm gonna flip the question. What do you guys think about that? What do you guys think about the wet foot, dry foot policy?
Okay.
With Cuba.
We can answer that after we finish. Well, after we wrap up here, just real quick. You're right. Laws are different depending on where you come from. But the question was, and I know you've answered. But I just want to make it clear for anybody watching. The question was, regardless of where you come from, if you're an immigrant who broke the law, you agree that they should be deported, regardless of what that law might be, because it does depend on where they come from. Is that correct? Am I understanding it?
And a lot of orders been changed,
right, because
of the situation that I was pointing out.
Sure.
In regards to Haiti and other countries within the Western Hemisphere, I feel it's probably someplace else, like like over in Africa or Eastern European country, but nobody's gonna cross the friggin' ocean anyway, so that's not the case.
Right.
But yeah, some countries they're just the situation's different, and a lot of the debate. We can pressure Biden right now, and he can just do an executive order.
Which is kind of crazy, right?
Instantaneously.
this is kind of off topic, but the executive order power is kind of crazy, right? Like I feel like that's probably built up like a little bit too far.
Because we were thinking about blacks and what do you call it, the pressure on Cuba, yeah, with Obama, and then as soon as Trump came back in power, he like with the opening up relations with Cuba. That's what Obama was doing. He was laxing relations with Cuba, and as soon as Trump came in, he made it. He was putting the embargo back on, and he was closing off.
Yeah, he didn't want to deal with them anymore.
So I have a question. What do you guys think about maybe just doing the same thing that Ronald Reagan did? Just
give us a brief summary of what he did. So
you broke up. What did you say?
What did Ronald Reagan do?
In 1986, Ronald Reagan granted amnesty to anybody who is in the country illegally.
That's insane. That is absolutely insane and a terrible idea.
Everybody became a citizen.
That's absurd. That should not be.
Why would it be a terrible idea?
It'd be a terrible idea.
Reagan did that.
It'd be a terrible idea because then you're incentivizing more people to come because, hey, I might get in illegally, but you never know. The president might give me citizenship randomly, so might as well.
You said the brain drain is bad for Haiti.
Yes. Theoretically.
Haiti's not far.
Sure.
From the United States. It's not like it's on the other side of the planet.
Mm-hmm.
People coming in, and by the way, a high percentage of Haitians are educated. And they can send money back, and they can end up going back because that's what's happened. That's what's done with Cubans.
Is that what's happening with Haiti? Because then I could be wrong.
Cubans got themselves situated, and a lot of Cubans in the U.S. support the people back home. But the difference is like Haiti is an open democracy, so you wouldn't have problem traveling back. They could travel. They can travel back. The only fear is that the vote, and people don't want people to, people coming in and then infecting. What was being done for many decades never worked with the U.S. So why would that not? Maybe that would work. You know what I mean? Maybe bringing them in would work.
Thoughts on that? Lebowski and Nivik just kind of teed it up for everybody. What would you guys think about like some sort of amnesty idea for everybody who's here currently? Bruce, Andy, Chad, Censor, anyone, feel free to chime in on an amnesty idea.
I think I agree with what you said earlier. I don't think that would be a good idea. I think that would kind of, give people ideas who aren't already here, who want to illegally immigrate. And yeah, I don't think that would be a good idea.
Chad, what do you think?
Yeah, I will defer my statements until everyone else has had a chance to go because I'd like to lead it into a different question that's relevant.
All right, fair enough. If anybody wants, do a little. Hit it out.
So I'm pro amnesty to some extent, but I believe that we have to get control of the border first, and then we can do an amnesty.
Okay, it makes more sense.
It doesn't make sense to me to let people keep living here but not give them amnesty. So like we have, I think there's two rational choices. One is wall and amnesty, or no wall and mass deportation. So we've got about 30 million people, and depending on how many, depending on who you listen to, between 10 and 30 million people living in the U.S. that are either illegal immigrants or the children of illegal immigrants. And I think rationally, either you say, okay, all these people that are here, they want to stay here, they're Americans, we're going to call them that. Give them all the rights and privileges as well as the responsibilities of being Americans. Give them the option to leave if they want to leave, but I'm pretty sure almost all of them want to be here, and that's why they're here. So give them amnesty, but You can't give blanket amnesties and
That's what I wanted to say.
Keep the porous border. So I'm in favor of the wall and amnesty, but I think the other option that's rational is to just deport everybody. I don't think it makes any sense to keep a bunch of people here and say you're neither American nor un-American.
Right, you got to do one or the other. I agree.
Saying that'd be a bad incentive is not the case, because it's not going to be blanket. No, and everybody's not going to say, oh, because you let them in, that means the entire world can come in. It must be based on certain. It's going to be in a certain situation. Why you would have them what do you call it declare what do you call it declare amnesty. No, it's not an amnesty.
And I get an unspoken third option would be
asylum, declare asylum.
Sure,
it's not.
An unspoken third option would be to get rid of the welfare state entirely, and then we wouldn't really have any driving force to.
You think everybody on the planet thinking, because Afghanistan's came into the United States, that means I get to come into the United States? Not everybody's going to be thinking that.
No, I just mean, like, we have things like chain migration and stuff like that, right? So it's like, it doesn't take a whole lot to triple the amount that you were hoping for in terms of getting people there.
When Doolittle's right in that sense, Divek. The one thing that I disagree with Doolittle on is the fact that a wall is effective. I don't think a wall really means anything. I think there are far better ways for us to control.
Like what?
To control these kind of, opposed to building a wall per se.
Sure, like send the Marines to Mexico.
I believe
50 miles south of the
border. The nations would go back.
First thing we got to do is like fix the actual broken immigration system.
Once that's 100%
correct.
Yeah, wholeheartedly agree with that.
Are you talking about a metaphorical wall or a physical wall? Because
I'm talking about a metaphor. I'm talking about a metaphorical wall.
Metaphorical.
But a big part of a metaphorical wall is a physical wall.
See, because I like to me, like a physical wall, it's just such a bad idea, because especially in that part of the country, you have like migratory animals that are all of a sudden being impacted by this fucking nonsensical wall.
You'll scale that wall, man.
How about let's just get some.
What about a metaphysical wall?
Let's just get some drones and stuff that can like patrol that area. It's going to be cheaper than actually building a physical wall. We can keep track of everything.
We know that it's just a symbol. It's just a symbol.
The physical wall is something that's going to last, 50 to 100 years.
No, not American build quality.
Well, the wall that we've been building with the fucking giant pylons with 10 feet down of concrete. That's something that's going to last 50 to 100 years, and it's a $15 billion expense off the top, and then it's going to significantly, drastically reduce the amount of resources we have to invest in patrolling. So in terms of force multiplication, I think it's a worthwhile investment for the most vulnerable areas. To get that kind of stuff. Yeah. Probably like a third to somewhere between a third and 2/3 of the border could use something like that.
Sure.
To really reduce our cost of patrolling it.
Sure.
Doctor, didn't you say earlier that?
If I could, whenever you guys are ready, though.
Doctor, didn't you mention earlier people traveling far?
Yeah, Chad. Nivik, real quick, and then Chad will have you go ahead.
Go for it.
Yeah, John, Doctor, didn't you mention earlier people traveling real far? That's a good thing. That'll show like their determination to get here. Folks like that is going through all of that shows a positive that shows a positive sign of that person.
Yeah, so a wall with a door in it. And so everyone has the opportunity. Everyone has the opportunity to go through the door, and there's a due process to get through that door.
So a funnel for administration.
Basically, yeah.
Has anybody played the game Papers, Please?
Chad, you said you
Well,
wanted
no,
to.
well, I mean, well, think about it. Somebody that came from, some Latin American country far south of Mexico, makes a huge trek to get to America, and they want to be an American, and they're like, hey, I want to apply to be an American. Like right now, we can't just let all those people in because there's tens of thousands of them, and plus the number of uncontrolled. Right. So
Yeah,
if we
I
get
was gonna
the
say, I
uncontrolled
hope
down to
that's my
zero,
opinion.
yeah, if we get the uncontrolled down to zero, and then we can a lot more strongly weight it based on the desire of the individuals, the ganas of the individuals that actually make it to our border.
Why they travel that long distance when Haiti's off the coast of America?
It's hold on. It's significantly more difficult to travel by sea than it would be by land.
But they have to. It's an island. It's in the sea.
Geographically, think about it like this.
They have to get to
Haiti
land.
is a little bit east and southeast of Cuba, basically. So it would be a dangerous and awful journey to try to get through Cuba, then to Florida, as opposed to literally just at the very least everyone can walk. Everyone is going to make the journey. So the logistics of trying to get an overseas travel would be nuts.
Oh, okay.
They can fly. Yeah, everyone can fly to Mexico.
If you go south, you go to South America, but you have to navigate a little bit. It's not as easy as Cuba. I'm looking at it. Yeah, it's next to Cuba, but you have to do some navigation.
Anyone can fly
from
to
Cuba.
Mexico City. Anyone can fly from Haiti to Mexico City and put in for a 7-day visa in Mexico.
They didn't fly. They went south to South America and traveled up.
Well, there's a lot of ways to get there, but I think that might be in the weeds. I
That
do.
much.
Thinking of papers, please, and Doolittle, you brought up the Truman Doctrine as well, which, for anybody who doesn't know, the Truman Doctrine was a doctrine of containment in the Cold War.
I might have been getting that mixed up with the Monroe Doctrine.
Oh,
So I wasn't sure what Nivik was referring to, the Monroe Doctrine or the Truman Doctrine.
About what?
So, well, hold on. So the policy of containment is basically we're not going to let the idea of communism spread, period, and we are going to do anything we can, including military intervention, to prevent that. I do want to know, what are your guys' thoughts on the consistent policy of American involvement in South American governments and governance, including regime changes, military invasions. I'm thinking of, obviously, Grenada, a couple other places, just things like that. What do you think about that instability that we create, leading to a significant influx of asylum seekers and amnesty seekers and all of the, the bad things that people have to go through to get to our country? How big of an impact do you think
that's tied to Haiti, by the way.
Chad, do you know what the School of the Americas is, by chance?
The School of the Americas? No, I'm not familiar.
Yeah, I know what it is. You say they train dictators there to topple governments. Yep. It's a CIA. It's like economic. I think it's like economic hitman. Like it's a fuck South America for Americans' interests at the expense of South America, pretty much.
Well, it goes to your point, Chad. So look up the School of Americas. Basically, what the United States did in the 60s and 70s is they supported. They supported people who were revolutionaries trying to overthrow governments. And they so we actively supported the destabilization of these countries.
Like the Contras and the Sandinistas, right?
Yep,
yes,
exactly.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, all countries do that.
Economic hitman.
We're kind of like pegging ourselves there for South America, but
South America.
The honest answer is, though, that Russia, China, other countries are also doing the exact same things in South America, as well as in other countries in Europe, and they do it in our country. And we do it.
So
we have a.
So what's your point? Because
one at a time. Chad, and then censor you can
if you wouldn't mind me.
Russia's doing it.
Nivik.
That's not a point. You have to counter. If somebody you build up a communist regime right outside of your back door,
there's no counter.
You have to try and counter that as best you can, and we do, and vice versa.
You're wrong. You're wrong. You don't think if you attack somebody, they'll run to Russia?
Why not Chad, Nivik, pick one of you, not both.
No. Quick question. You don't think if you attack somebody, they'll run to Russia?
If I attack somebody?
If you attack somebody.
If you attack somebody, they will run to Russia.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's the only one you guys. I mean, like, for cover, that's what you do. Even if you're not pro-communist, that's what you do.
I know they're in danger. I want to run into the warm arms of the Russian government.
Oh yes, Putin, coddle me.
You simplified that beyond what could be answered right there, but the answer to that, to give you a quick, simple answer, it is no. The answer is no. But that is a way more complicated question than you've simplified it down to. But I get where you were coming from. It sounds simple, like that would be the answer, but it's not.
Really, if you were under attack, you would move to the. Okay.
I'm telling
Nivik,
you.
let Chad.
Never mind. Go ahead. Go
Please,
on.
Hold on, Chad.
Okay, so when we're specifically talking about the American involvement in regime changes, all the way up to the most recent Operation Gideon, if you guys remember that, so Silver Corps or something like that, like some subset of a Blackwater-esque corporation was going to invade and overthrow the Venezuelan government, right? So that has been going on since, yeah, you're right, since the USSR days. However, I would seriously doubt, and actually, well, based on a couple of different things I've read, say that Russian and Chinese and a couple other foreign imperial powers, their involvement in South America is almost nil, considering how much of an iron grip we have on our own hemisphere. So the whole idea that we're still countering these subversive elements in those countries, I would seriously doubt, because it benefits us to keep a good amount of these countries still kind of in limbo politically at the very least. But I do want to ask again, do you guys think that our involvement in the destabilization of these countries has significantly impacted the number of immigrants we get?
Yes. I mean, yes. It's kind of impossible to tell, right? Because it's purely theoretical. We have no counterfactual, but I mean, I'd imagine.
Facts.
Nivik, hold on.
Nivik, there's no alternative universe where we didn't intervene in our own hemisphere.
Yeah, we can't really see what would have happened, but I mean, maybe a little bit, like maybe, but I can't really see a lot of those regimes that we tried to overturn being stable on their own to begin with. Like, I think instability would have probably occurred whether or not we sped it up or not. But I mean, it's possible.
But then your own point. But then John, your own point applies to that too, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like this is purely theoretical. I can't prove this. That's just like my speculation. You're right.
The outcome of the involvement led to people fleeing.
Yeah. But my point is, people could have fled even if we didn't get involved. That's my point. Like, it's possible.
I was going to say, the follow-up question, do you think that we ought to stop involvement in these countries to maybe hopefully let them...
Yes, I do.
I think we need to double down.
Yeah.
Time to double down.
It's one or the other. I mean, like, Bruce is right, actually. Like, either...
Venezuela, let's go.
Bruce is right. Like, either we need...
If we're going the route and we're looking to protect our trade interests at all, and control most of the travel, traffic, and otherwise, I see the immigrant issue as just sort of the fallout and necessary, price of doing business.
Well, I'm glad we found our two options.
More imperialist view, right?
Yeah, we found our.
That's where we are. I'd rather be in that position than the middle of the road position or the other one, but I don't think laissez-faire is going to occur. So if it's not going to, I'm going to go on the other side of the imperialists and stay with those who are winning. And I'll just
so what you're saying is either we go full isolationist and build the wall, or we go full imperialist and invade all of South and Central America. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I don't think that's a good necessary resource necessarily. I would say that with it's right for regime change, lots of resources to be gained for our own benefit. So
I think you're right. This kind of tacit thing where we're like half in and spending a lot of resources, but like not in enough to actually get anything out of it is probably bad. I agree. I think we need to like pick a lane and just like commit.
I mean, I don't necessarily agree with that personally, like morally, personally, but
Sure.
practically speaking, I could see that.
Yeah, agreed. You just gotta pick a lane.
Besides cocaine, what other kind of like natural research are we getting?
Any and
from
everything.
What do you mean besides cocaine? Like,
I'd like to have control over all the
I'm just making
hold on, one at a time.
Coke's a good one. Coke's a good one. We have the trade in Afghan, you know, but how about coffee and everything else?
Chris. Making a joke.
Yeah.
So legitimately,
rare earth minerals and oil.
Hold on. Okay. Hey, hold on.
Lithium.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Doolittle.
lithium. If you want electric car battery future for America, then we need the lithium that is in South America, because the biggest lithium deposits in the world
Okay, we have
are in South America.
Hold on. Shitload of cobalt in South America too. That is high.
All kinds of mineral resources. And there's gold. Don't forget about the gold.
El Dorado.
None of them are nearly as important as cocaine. Let's be honest.
Cocaine is priority one.
Further explain it.
Okay, hold on. It's getting
funny. Further explain it. I would rather have the imperialist folks be in my country as opposed to the global homo idea of having one giant imperialist nation that controls all of us.
Can I say something? Can I say something real quick?
Go ahead, Nivek.
You say that, I mean, the outcome of so you're saying like we are intervening was for many decades that led up to not having a negative outcome. You don't know if we haven't have done that, then there would have been a negative outcome anyway.
Yeah, we have no counterfactual. Okay. It's possible it would have destabilized.
If America wants to have a strong argument in how folks are going about their governing is the wrong way, then why not get a strong argument by just letting them do what they're doing and fail and prove your point. And
Nivek, I agree.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I agree.
So it's kind of like, why don't you let the person fuck up first and then you go in?
Right.
Let them prove. Let them prove you right.
Yeah, fair enough.
But it's kind of like that argument with Cuba. It's kind of like if drop the sanctions and if that's true, they will fail. If those sanctions are lifted because they just can't do things right, then then drop them and then have your point be proven by having them fail.
I mean, hold on.
Can I respond to that?
Yes, but we have to go to Gala and Villain in a minute here. So very briefly, Chad.
Yeah, playing devil's advocate here, Nivek. You know as well as I do that I agree with 90% of what you say, but. Again, devil's advocate here. Back in the days of the USSR and the two major powers, Cuba was especially important as a strategic location. So it started off in a way where I honestly don't even think we could have possibly, I guess, existed without some sort of direct involvement or direct, I guess, countermeasures. After that, after the dissolution of the USSR in the 90s, then you start to get a more specific case and a stronger case for dropping any sort of measures against it. But don't think that, like, at any time, America, just purely serving self-interest, didn't have a reason to jump in, I guess. That's all.
It wasn't tied to the USSR. Can I respond to you?
Sure. But again, very briefly, we got to get to other people. So.
Listen carefully to the points.
Cuba was invaded by the U.S. and of the Bay of Pigs invasion, and having them run into their arms. That's how those missiles got there. They got there after that happened. After they got attacked, they felt they had to fucking protect themselves. So they got Ruskies, they got the Russians, and say, okay, you guys, you can park over here, because U.S. They're not going to. The
Yeah.
U.S. are going to attack us, and
Nivek.
they're going to think twice about that.
Nivek.
And after that,
Nivik, this actually is some interesting Cold War history. I'd like to do a topic on it later, but I want to get back to our topic at hand and get a few new people in. I'm sorry, Chad.
Oh, I was just saying I'm your guy. Sorry, go ahead.
No worries. Yeah, there's a lot of new people, and I want to get back to the topic. So let's go to Zet first, and we're gonna go around the room to the new people, and we're gonna end with Nivik. So back to the topic at hand. The southern border kind of be crazy right now. I kind of want to get your opinions on what you think we should do about it, how you feel about what's being done, and whether or not we should just take over all of South and Central America. So go ahead.
I just joined. I don't have any background of the topic. What's exactly the question?
On the southern border, there's a large influx of immigrants that has been very hard to control, and we were talking about general policy for controlling our southern border. I was wondering what you thought about that. What you think we should do?
we already have taken over. That is a repercussions of people coming in.
Yeah, John, Zet's not from America.
Oh,
so
alright.
when you say the southern border, he might be thinking of his own southern
All
border.
right, Zed, where you from, mate? Sorry.
I'm from America.
Huh? Say again?
From where?
I'm from America.
That is awkward.
That is awkward. Aw.
Like the accent doesn't strike me as American. Like what part of America are you from?
Listen, buddy, America's too big for you as well, man.
Hey, man.
Different accents.
It's a nation of immigrants, okay?
Yeah, man, it's a nation of fucking migrants, motherfuckers who escape their countries, man, to pursue a better lifestyle. Anyway, man.
Yeah, there's a lot of people doing that right now illegally.
That's right. There's no way you were born and raised in the U.S. with that.
I mean, you're tired, you're poor, you're waddle mixes, you're to be free.
Jesus Christ.
I think I have a question to answer. I don't know.
Yeah, not the immigration conversation I was expecting, but maybe the one we deserve.
So do I.
So what do you think, Zed?
Whatever's written on the Statue of Liberty has no bearing on law or the Constitution, but
No, I agree. It's a bit
doesn't mean shit.
So, in my opinion, regarding your question, I think it's a crisis, regardless of what the intentions and the motives they're migrating to the U.S. I think if you're a good human being, whether you're Christian or Muslim or whatever your ethnicity or religion or belief system, it's always good to help other people. But you have responsibilities to take care of your own people, and if you can manage to do the both, then why not? I think the US has enough power and enough wealth that they can help those people out. And of course, letting them in is not the only solution. Is also maybe you guys can send advisors, make up some teams that they can fix up the problems in some countries. Unless you're too selfish and greedy and you want to make them fix it by themselves, that's also a solution. But I would send people to help them up. And this is a possibility. I don't know how realistic it is, but that would be my way.
Fucking based.
Those
Right.
nations being in the hemisphere of the U.S., they would want it to be. They want their governing to be a democratic government. They wouldn't so they because it's within. Yeah, I mean they
why?
it's
So
within-
morons
it's
can
with-
vote in
it's-
more morons?
It's
Why do you
within
want
the hemisphere.
democratic?
It's within the Western Hemisphere, and
Why do you want
and
democratic?
it's in the sphere of
representation with
it's
people
in the
that are
sphere of
uneducated?
influence of
Yeah,
America.
yeah, but without democratic, you still have morons voting in morons, but they're just fucking rich morons voting in up.
No, it's not necessarily the case. At least
Well,
it's
It's been the case every time so far.
Well, it's not
No,
necessarily
that's hardly the
case.
case. It's only 50% of the eligible public
All right,
votes
well,
in the federal election. That's
maybe,
what-
but that's with like it's not necessarily the case in democracy that morons are voting in morons, right? So like if it's not the
I mean,
case,
the case is an uneducated democracy is basically useless.
I mean, I agree.
Yeah,
Maybe
but
next show should be
uneducated, uneducated monarchy or theocracy is useless as well.
What road are we going
Well,
down?
no, I'm not talking about that. I'm saying like people that are educated are good for democracy, but otherwise, it's
Hold on.
great.
Next
there should be rules for people that can vote.
All right, next show is going to be
democracy sucks. That's
yeah.
a good point.
Okay. Next.
Democracy doesn't suck.
I mean,
I'm just joking.
Here's the thing.
Pure democracy does suck, actually, and even the folks that talked about the idea of democracy admitted this. Pure democracy is a terrible idea, which is why we're a representative republic.
Well, but a representative republic is still a democracy. It's specifically a form of democracy.
It's not a pure democracy. Even the great Greeks that talked about this realized.
Okay, Bruce. Okay, Bruce. We are gonna have a monarchy. I'm the king, and you're
boys. Come on, one at a time. One at a time. I'm so sorry. All right, so I know what we're doing next time. We're going to talk about whether democracy is cringe or not. That's our next show, 100%, because I'm going to talk about this. Huh?
It's too late.
It's too late. I mean, yeah, I think we can all agree that democracy is the worst system we have, except for all the other ones. That's the quote I like to use.
Exactly. That's my point.
That's the quote I like to use.
I don't think so.
I mean, democracy in the loose sense. I tend to agree representative republic is pretty good. But there's people in here who haven't talked yet, and that's my priority. So, Gala, are you around?
Yes.
Gala?
Yeah, I'm here.
Wait, Zed, are you also Gala?
Yes, Gala is my friend.
Oh, that's strange. Okay, well then never mind. Alright, then we're going to Villain, because Villain always has a spicy take. We got like 25 minutes left, so let's hang it off with a bang. Villain, what do you think about how we've been handling the southern border? What would you do if you had God powers? Just give us your take, man. Southern border.
My like emotional, like instinctual like response is to like shut down a border. But my rational like question about it is it in a welfare state and an open border is a recipe for disaster. You cannot have a welfare state and an open border. That's stupidest thing in the world.
Right.
But while we've been talking, I've been like trying to question myself, like why do we have borders per se in a multicultural society? It makes sense in like an prior kingdoms and nation states to where there was a genetic and cultural population that lived together, and that an outsider came in, and the outsider did not have the same privileges because they were different. They didn't hold the same values. They didn't eat the same food. They didn't do the same way of life. But
just like you guys came to America, yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
Well,
yeah, same. I mean, yeah. You guys brought out the rats
we
and the
didn't
mouses.
immigrate to America. We conquered America.
Okay, you conquered. Yeah.
To be fair.
Who's we? By
yeah, we is not the best term, but I know what you mean.
The European man.
This is a racist thing.
No, it's actually not racist.
Well, yeah.
I'm just joking, man.
Hold on. One at a time, Villain.
That age was the age of conquest. All the powerful groups in the world were trying to conquer the world. You have to look at through that realm.
So after the Civil War, should the South been wiped out?
Nivik, wait your turn, man.
I'm just trying to squeeze in a word. I'm saying after the Civil War, you think the South should have been wiped out then?
Dude, it's not worth it. Just let them go.
That's a non sequitur. Please continue.
I'm just talking about a lot of people were divided that came to America. It wasn't all kumbaya of one group like you try to paint it of Europeans. Well, they hated each other. They killed each other. They slaughtered each other.
But what I'm getting from
some of them they didn't even see as others as some of them thought of other whites as other races. Like Jews was looked at as another race.
Like
whites were other races, and they still are.
I'm mixed. I'm a mixed European breed. I'm not some pure person. I'm not arguing for these things, but I'm just trying to like be rational and objective, and what it is what it is. America was an Anglo-Saxon Protestant nation. That's just what it was.
In terms of
But what is this exactly?
He's trying to do a divide and conquer here. He's trying
Just
to say
let him finish.
Like everybody came here as one group.
Nope, that's not true.
I have never been.
A lot of other whites
Anglo-Saxon guy.
had a hard time by other whites.
Nivik, if you were listening to what he said he's mixed European breed, and there were several Europeans that came in, right? So he's making a point for you.
It wasn't just Europeans that came in; other people came in. Asians came in.
Like when you usually ask a question, it's like it doesn't seem like it's actually a question. It's more of an accusation. But like I have literally 50% Sicilian. Like I literally have my grandparents immigrated from Sicily to Italy. I mean, excuse me, to the U.S. Yeah. And I'm not arguing for the legitimacy of like America going back to becoming a WASP nation, because by that definition, half of my bloodline was a hated class. The Italians and Sicilians and Italians get put together. That's
dirty Catholics.
Yeah. Like my half of my family's religion and their race were seen as like outsiders and trash. So I'm not arguing for this. I'm just trying to understand it and call things what they are. America was literally founded as a WASP nation. That's just how it is. We don't have to. I'm not saying by acknowledging that, I'm not saying that that's right or wrong. I don't really have an opinion on whether it's right or wrong, but that's what it was.
Sure.
And the original Constitution, to where only white land-owning men could vote, that wasn't the way I see it. I don't see racism or hatred there. I see that the land-owning part means that you were successful. Like you were able to buy land. You somehow had a business or whatever, and you produced money, and you were able to buy land. So you had a mark of success in your resume. The male is a traditional belief about the gender roles of society, and that's a cultural thing. They believe that women run the home and men run the business, and women nurture children. It's a value thing. It's not a hatred towards women thing. It's just a cultural value thing. And the white part of that's a cultural thing too. It's harder for us to see today because we live in multicultural societies and we don't live in like ethnic enclaves. But the way I see it, when the world was more cut up into ethnic enclaves, to where certain races and ethnicities lived in certain geographics separated from other races and ethnicities, and you can still see it some places in the world, there's a value set that comes attached to that community. And so I look at it, and I'm not arguing for this, but I'm trying to push back of like looking at things in the past and just having this postmodern critical race theory idea of things where you're criticizing everything and finding the hate and everything. I look at that. I don't see hate. I'm not saying that I'm for it or against it or I think it's perfect, but I don't see it founded on hate. They were trying to preserve the functionality of their culture, and they were trying to preserve the values of their culture. I don't see it as them just being like, oh, we hate these people, we hate those people, let's keep them down. I don't see evidence for that.
They were trying to change the values of being a secular society.
Conquering your land.
It wasn't about
one at a time. Nivik goes, and then we'll go to Neurotic, and then we'll go to Bruno. One at a time.
They're trying to change the values based and not trying to uphold in the system being secular in where from the beginning of it being for equality. The issue with race was a problem since since the beginning of America, with where the founding fathers were conflicted with it, and based off of the belief of all men are created equal, and it being a secular society, and it being a democratic system where, based on rules of laws, where people have a say, and that's pretty much it. And why you had conflicts throughout its history, based off those ideals, in everybody being included as Americans. Yeah, I get that other people throughout the nation's history, they struggled, but everybody struggled. It's a vicious cycle. People just took
I'm
their
not trying to
turns
be
and
rude, but I have no idea what you're saying right now.
everybody
basically,
struggled in America. You don't understand that?
What's going
And I'm
on
talking about.
basically? I'll try to summarize it. I'll try to
I'm
summarize it
talking
to
about
have a
like
go.
Hold on,
America
Nivik.
struggled
Hold on,
in having
Nivik, wrap
fairness
up.
for everybody throughout its history. It wasn't based off of race like you're trying to say it was about. It was based off of an idea.
How does this wrap back around to the border?
Well, I was about to wrap it back around in a
Racism.
second after we get to everybody else. I think Villain was just kind of talking about how basically there's certain countries used to have certain cultures, and the reason you had borders was to separate different cultures. And the message I got from you, Villain, and if this is wrong, then it's just mine, so don't let me put words in your mouth, is that at this point we seem to be such a cultural melting pot that like we don't even agree on basic values anymore. Like literally, it's very difficult for me to name one basic value that almost all Americans agree on. Even the right to like disagree with each other, which is like the biggest cop out of a value ever, barely exists anymore.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. What I've been trying to figure out lately is
basic value: don't steal, don't kill. We all have these.
I don't know.
I don't know. People don't really believe. I don't know. A large portion of the population doesn't believe in property rights
without like a common value. And I literally think that America and probably the Western world, the ethos is literally consumerism. It's like comfort in like buying stuff.
Neurotic.
That's literally the value that ties us that creates us as a group. That's the one common thing. It's just like buying things and being comfortable.
Mm. Neurotic, you wanted to get in here though. I wanted to let you in here.
Yeah, so we were talking about how like back in the day, it was just the case that everyone was at war conquering, and that was just the norm back in the day.
Yeah.
That was going on mostly in Europe, but like in North America, like the Native Americans actually had like a good thing going here. Like it was very peaceful. Like
my friend,
like it was nice, but they didn't have technology.
Oh my guy, I hate to break it to you.
What?
No.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm sorry to break it to you. Native Americans were fucking.
Hold on. If you're saying that, just look up if you're familiar with the Crow tribe.
Which culturally?
Just look up the Crows.
Crows. I can imagine like based off of the name and knowing Native American culture that I can imagine. Crows aren't just call it murder of crows.
They were also considered like Sioux. People talk about like the Sioux Indians. It's like really like 15 tribes, but there's like all these different tribes, and they all had like different.
It's like modern day Afghanistan, but with bows and arrows and spears and
scalping. Don't forget the scalping.
Things like that.
Exactly. Like look, Mohicans. Like everybody's heard of Mohicans. Mohicans were specifically like an Appalachian tribe, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to get down into it, there's like 300-400 different tribes and Native Americans all throughout the United States. And they were all their own group, like you had the Seminoles in the South and the Mohicans in the
Yeah, so long story short,
like 1,500 tribes.
By the way, did you see the post that I text in live text? Did you see the post I posted in live text? The Native American government that inspired the U.S. Constitution.
Oh, the Iroquois? Oh, yeah, it is the Iroquois.
If that's for you, Villain.
Anyway.
Bruno, hey, I want to ask a question. The person that just talked, I'm really curious how Where I'm not trying to own you. I want to understand that point of view because it's a pervasive point of view. Where did you get the idea that pre-colonial America was like a native utopian?
Like, where I get the idea, I mean, I suppose from the culture and so reading the spiritual stories and like the wisdom books, because like I'm deep into like religious stuff. So like I've read the Christian Bible, I read about Muslim culture, I read about the Native American culture, and the wisdom stories I take as very wise. So I'm extrapolating from that, I suppose.
Right. Bruno, we wanted you to get in here. I promised you get in here like a while ago, so please give us your comments. Respond. I think you wanted to respond to Villain. It was a while ago. But want to give you another shot because we're kind of winding down here, but I want you to get in again.
Yeah, honestly, I was going to say something, but it's sort of past. Like, we're not talking about that anymore, so you can carry on.
All right, well...
I suppose I'm judging cultures from the art they produce.
Actually, just to respond to what Neurotic said, if you understand the human animal, that we're territorial by nature, then you would understand that. Once you have one or two tribes in a territory, there will be fighting. Definitely.
Right. Yeah.
So
Native Americans were not nice to each other.
I imagine there was, I imagine crows, like murder of crows, like that. I imagine that happened.
Native Americans were not nice to each other. Every piece of land that Europeans conquered was passed between various Native American tribes a few times, I'd imagine. So yeah,
all nations starting out, people killed each other.
Yeah, that's
to form a nation.
Unfortunate truths. We're kind of winding down here, so I want to get like final thoughts from everybody. We've been kind of branching out a lot, which I kind of expected since the Southern Border is kind of a niche topic. I kind of expected.
Can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead, Zet. Final thought.
Listen, we all have seen that movie Star Trek, and we always dream of getting to a future where like maybe without the enemy aliens stuff, that's scary shit, but like we'll all be able to live in a happily with an Indian Hindu, with a Muslim dude who tries to be from time to time, with a Christian dude who is so patriotic. Can we get this reality true that we all can live in peace and harmony? Or is it so stupid for us humans to think that we can over control or overcharge our own desires and our own instincts as of like habitat and control and all this type of stuff? Is it possible?
Yeah, I think it is possible because at one point people would be like, well, you can't have Irish and fucking Italians living in the same neighborhood. That's never going to work out. And, what happened? Time, it works out. Like, I mean, it's just these things are just a matter of time. Like, and that's one of the things that always gets my goat. It's like people point out, it's like, oh yeah, well here are these certain like things that are like problems right now, so they're always going to be a problem. No, if you just like even take a preliminary look back through history, we can see all kind of problems that were way worse that people have gotten over. So like anything that we're going through now is nothing compared to what people went through in the past. Like people
to counter that, Lebowski, is that
I'm not so sure about that.
Irish and Italians getting along, that might only happen once we start erasing Irish and Italian or diluting it to where
exactly
where they're just white people now because they've interbred. Like so, like I don't know if you can actually have like solid cultures, multicultural. You have to like it's like that right-wing conspiracy theory about the Jews trying to like blend all the cultures and races together to make like a mongrel culture. So
Marxism.
Yep, but what I see going on right now, just in the world, is kids in China, kids in Korea are listening to pop music and like watching Marvel movies, and kids in the United States are now listening to like BTS. Like we're all eating like sushi. Like cultures are merging. That this is happening. Like there's no way to deny.
China's not really like in the U.S.
What's actually it's not. But
hold on, yeah.
you can look
Whenever
at
you're done, let me jump in.
what's going on is you can see like cultures merging, like regardless of government action. Like that's totally different. That's when if you talk about the Chinese government, yeah, there's going to be some issues there, but we can actually see cultures are coalescing to where we are right now making a one culture. It's happening. Like, I mean, there is like anywhere you go in the world, there's probably going to be a McDonald's, right? So, and pretty soon, like I don't know if you guys have ever like been over into Asia, but there's a fried chicken called Jollibee, which they're starting to open up stores in the United States, and like this. So this is
McDonald's is global.
That is one of the
That's a
biggest
Filipino. That's a
globalist. You're one of those damn globalist lizard people.
Yeah, Filipino. But what I'm saying is food, music, TV, like culture. That's going to be the first thing that everybody starts sharing, right? And like we're already seeing that happening. Like that is happening right now. I don't see any way to deny that fact.
It's very interesting how high those things that you listed, Scott, are on our pleasure hierarchy in general.
Exactly. Yep.
All right. Any other final thoughts? Responding to Lebowski?
I don't think that the conflict will go away. So basically, I imagine two extremes. You imagine that we have so many rules that everyone will follow them, but there's like it's oppressive and it's not very like freeing. Or the other side, we have like not enough rules and people are free to make their own choice, and people are shitters, so they're gonna play like they're gonna bend the rule just a little bit just to get away with shit, and they're gonna make it worse and worse and worse. I think there's gonna be a constant tension between those two extremes.
Oh yeah. But with that, I think you're talking about government, not culture. And what I'm specifically saying is like what's gonna lend the human beings to be able to get along with everybody else is a shared culture, not shared laws. Like shared laws come after shared culture, right?
I think that's partially true.
They actually don't need to even have the same or even share the exact same culture. Like they can share like some principles that those
bedrock
principles
values.
actually be more. They could be more meaningful. They could be actually sufficient for those people to live together. Like let's say. In a hypothetical world, we will get fucking destroyed by an asteroid, and the nomads and the people and all live together, and we understood, for example, the meaning of actually living together that time, when we actually understand the value of you as a human being one day, because we forgot this one day, because I don't know, because from what I've read actually from the history, from historians of the people who went through World War I and World War II, and the Europeans as well, when they experienced this thing, they then experience something, the solidarity of like being European, the things that we went through, the things that we recovered from, and the things that we are now, even though there are differences. But the idea that they share this principle that we need to work together, we need to help each other, and they help each other. There have been massive migrant crises as well in Europe and in South Africa and many different stages of the world. So there's no such a thing as we won't be able to live together. The only people who will not let us live together are the people who basically, exclude other people who would be spreading more hatred towards other people who are basically unwilling to share the same space as you are because this is whatever their beliefs are, So there are, in fact, actors in our society that they are unwilling to share the same planet, the same space as we are, because for some fucking reason they think they are the more special ones. And this happens for all people. You don't need to be a religious person.
Hatred.
Villain, respond.
I said I think it's weird that you see exclusion and hatred as being one and the same.
I mean, and what happens when you hate someone? You exclude them, and what happens when you exclude some people? Those people
I live in a house, and I exclude most of the world's population from coming into my house. It doesn't mean I hate them. It's just they're not allowed in my house.
I mean, this is a trivial comment, to be honest. I'm not talking about you specifically. We're talking about more of a greater sense, like as a nation, as a human species, as a struggling
I was
conscious
giving
beings.
an anecdote, as to point to the philosophical idea there that you're claiming, like you're not claiming. I hear you expressing the idea the exclusion is hatred, but I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true. You describe people that were excluding other people as being full of hate. Like I don't think that's
the difference between
I'll give you an example.
differentiation and an individual differentiation.
Hold on, see.
One at a time.
not a
Zach,
relationship
Zach,
in
respond. You said, is that a fair representation of what you're saying? Okay, so what were you saying then?
Yeah, because like the reason why I'm saying those things is because we're trying to learn from our past historical mistakes and not to repeat them again. Because if you look at the conquest and the expansion of religions over history, over time as well, and even the conquest and the expansions of ideologies as well, many of the times the biggest mistakes that those ideas and those people who had a revolutionary ideas did is basically exclude people who refused and basically started to killing those people. And this is where a lot of the hatred comes from. It's because even if you truly believe in what you believe in, as long as you start excluding other people, even like we talk about borders and nations. Yes, we all put this. They're all human constructs. Who knows if borders will even remain in the future? Nobody knows. It could be, but nobody really knows. So it's better to actually build bridges between communities and cultures, and to have social contracts with different nations, with different cultural groups, to actually know how to live with each other, and not let our own politicians do the bargaining and negotiations in our own behalf without even them asking us. So there's a problem there, because people are actually spreading hatred.
Hold on. You said correct. Do you see exclusion as equal to or the source of hatred?
No, that's not what you're saying.
Hatred as the source or equal to
in my specific example, is in your example, no.
Yeah, because we don't know how you define hate.
So we're running out of time here. I guess I pose a question to Zet though. So I mean, I agree that we should try to reach out to people of different cultures, but there are some levels of difference that are kind of insurmountable. So like theoretically, like let's say this other culture you want to reach out to and join with, like let's say that it's just one of their values is that they're cool with like child pornography or something like that. Like, is that really something we can just like agree to live and let live over? Or I mean, because it seems to me that on some things you have to believe what you believe, and people who don't believe the same thing should be excluded for extreme cases like that. Would you admit that there are some cases in which exclusion and maybe some borders are necessary?
I mean, yeah, I agree, but from what we see now in this current day and age, we're not even nearing that exclusion. Like, slavery still exists and human trafficking still exists, and too many little attention do we pay for those things, oh boy. And the underground world, the war on drugs, and many real problems that we can easily fix if we really want to put the effort into. But hey, man, we're gonna keep drifting on hypothetical arguments of some people who want to teach some child porn, or some people who want to marry young kids, which is very fucking rare compared to the largest human population. I have never seen this argument from even like the most conservative people and the most radical people, from European people and Nazis. Oh, we don't like those Muslims because they worship child porns, or they like to marry kids. No, the reasons why they don't like those people to come in is because there are limited amount of jobs, there are limited amount of resources. They would rather be the focus of the nation, the focus of the government, and not some who knows whose his background this immigrant is. So
is that
the reasons are different.
Yeah, so I want to bring up something to that point though, because if that's what you're talking about, like, you do realize there are places in the United States able to get married at like 14. I don't think Massachusetts even actually has a age limit for marriage, as long as the parents say that they agree to it. So this goes past child porn. Like it's like a parent like selling a child off to be raped by some guy. Like so should we build up walls and borders around specific states that are allowing that kind of stuff?
Okay, so I was talking more metaphorical borders of there being a need to separate off some aspects of culture and some values from other values. I don't think that complete cultural relativism.
This is a constant tension.
That's my
but,
point.
But how are we separating those values of states that are allowing people to marry children in the United States? Like, we have no separation with that right now.
Well,
So like,
I mean, I think
don't
that's
understand like what the
unconstitutional.
big
I mean, I personally think.
consternation is.
The problem is there's a flaw in this argument is because this argument would make sense if you're basically getting outside visitors. But what if in this case, like your own society started, for example, to manifest or come up with new maybe traditions, new standards, new points of view.
That's what's happening right now.
You need to you need to talk exactly what is happening right now, and
That's
you
why
can
we're coming
exclude those
apart.
people just because they have different views.
Well, it's
Right,
not
but
just different views.
The current discussion's about the border crisis, so
yeah.
Talking about a potential internal transformation is a bit of a non sequitur.
Yes, you're right. We started talking about metaphorical
If your
borders.
argument doesn't apply fundamentally, then there's a more fundamental reason.
One at a time, please. Nivek, what's up, man?
Did go off the point, John.
Huh?
So nobody spoke up. So I have a final thought on the border crisis. That viral picture of the cowboy officer, quote unquote, whipping the Haitian guy, which he wasn't.
We went through that.
Established.
If he had been whipping that Haitian, that would have been completely justifiable. Somebody's sneaking into the country and invading our laws, like a far greater use of force would have been justifiable than just whipping him. Like, somebody is invading our country. Like, oh my goodness, he got whipped with the leather rein. No, we have laws. We have immigration laws. If you sneak into our country and invade our country by the thousands, like, physical force is justified.
And your point about exclusion.
Chad,
go for it, Nivek.
Your turn.
The U.S. do things
Nivek,
affecting
Nivek,
other nations
Chad's
for people
turn,
to come
man.
into the border. Come
Nivek,
across
Chad's
the border.
turn, not your turn. Sorry, Chad.
So we did actually speak a little bit to the definition of invasion, and that does bring up an interesting point, because if you're calling the influx of people an invasion, at what point does lethal force become the imperative as opposed to some force lesser? Because if you're saying it's okay to whip somebody because they're invading, that seems like, a disproportionate use of force. If they're invading, why wouldn't you just take the jump and shoot them?
Villain?
It's completely justifiable to shoot anybody that tries to cross our border.
At least he's consistent.
That's what I wanted to hear.
The man is consistent.
It's completely justifiable.
Okay, boys.
Taking over the country.
You
It's not
can
an
legally
invasion.
come to a port of entry and be ask permission to come in the country. You can. There's ways to do that, and we have the right to say no or yes. It is completely justifiable to shoot people that are trying.
What if they're declaring asylum?
Into our country.
Then declare asylum in a legal port of entry.
Like what would Jesus do? Would Jesus just?
It's the meme is like, it's completely within the realm of possibility for him to start throwing shit around and whipping the shit out of people.
Jesus? Nah, dog.
Well, that is how the meme goes. He is right.
You should be more Christian.
That's literally like a story in the Bible there, where he went into the temple and started whipping people and like throwing shit around.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
This is not helping you out, my dude.
I don't think you whip people. I'm pretty sure you turned the tables.
All right.
Upside down.
All right. Hold on.
He literally flipped the table over from the moneylenders. Yeah, fuck those guys. Those
He was that is true.
Just for your information for it, it's a story in the Bible where, like, Jesus went to the temple and, like, these guys were like using people, and they were they were doing like fucked up currency exchange rates so people could like buy their animal they had to sacrifice. And Jesus was pissed off about that, so he literally went around flipping their money tables over and like grabbed a whip and started whipping the fuck out of people.
Yeah,
I don't remember the whip.
So in King James it says, and when he made a scourge of small cords, he drove them all out of the temple, sheep and the oxen, and poured out the changers' money and overthrew the tables.
Yeah.
Yes, and in the King's Villain version, it says that Jesus begat to whip the fuck out of the people.
I like the villain. I like the villain
Because I'm looking at all these verses. It never says he whipped people. It says he made
Bro, I have a joke. This is how you get the what do you call it, the parallel to an ISIS group, but a Christian one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, good analogy.
I think something got lost in translation.
All right, this feels like a good place to stop.
The KKK is reviving in this place.
All right, guys, that's my time.
Good stopping point 1 minute ago.
Yeah, I agree.
Can I say one thing real quick? You don't think things
No,
in other
Nivek,
countries
Nivek.
people have a right to come in?
No. Okay, so
has a right to come into your home.
No, countries. If
Only
you agree,
Americans have the right to come to your home, my dude.
if you agree that countries have sovereignty, we obviously have a right to enforce
Would
our
you
borders.
want, if you were not in America, would you want another nation come and conquering you? Like, are you arguing that like America, like that's such a ludicrous argument?
Villain.
Like, I already addressed that. It was a
Villain. You talk about
conquest.
exclusion and
Yeah,
the US.
they were conquering people. Like that's
talking about
the
a nation.
way it was.
Boys, take it to the tab.
Boys,
Boys,
man, you got.
take it to the tab.
It's okay.
Take it to the tavern. That's all the time I have. I'm limited. I was thinking we could get some final thoughts from Trav, or we can just end depending on what he wants to do. Just on what we can do. It seems like we basically all agree that what's going on at the southern border is like a very bad job, and we should probably have more security there. Whether we go amnesty or deportation, I think we all agree we need to control our borders better. So I'm glad we can all agree on something.
I have nothing to add at this time, John. I just wanted to thank you for running an amazing discussion again. Thanks, brother.
Thanks, mate. I do my best. You guys are all very smart and impassioned, so I hope I was keeping tabs on everything adequately well. But yeah, it was really fun, you guys. I gotta run though.
I do want to say, everybody give a hand to John J. Porter Jingleheimer. Like, this guy is my guy too.
Okay. Yeah, that's not that funny. That made me laugh harder than it should have. Okay, everybody please continue fighting it out in the tavern. I'd love to see a bar fight, but I gotta go. I don't have any more time. Good talk, everybody. Lessons of the day is there was no whipping. That didn't happen. Borders should be better controlled, whether or not we're more or less empathetic towards immigrants, whether we go empathy or deportation.
Who said the whipping didn't happen? You just didn't see it, man. The camera didn't.
All right. Well, there's no evidence of it. There's no evidence of it. Okay.
Listen. If you were an immigrant and you had you befriended other immigrants, you will always hear stories of people getting.
Anybody that wants to have a bar.
All right. Everybody's all right. Later, everybody. Have fun. Peace. All right, live is ending. Everybody, thank you for watching. Please subscribe to the Pangburn Offensive channel as well as the Pangburn channel. We're growing, and it promotes free and fair discourse, which is in short supply in today's world. So please subscribe, support the channel. Hope you enjoyed it. Come participate in the Discord, and see you next time.